Hello, Secret Keepers. There ain't no good guys, there's only bad guys, which leaves you and me in this murder fantasy. Is there no ethical war under space colonization? Is there overlapping tools used to paint 40k figures and customize magic cards? And will the Kyles of the world ever grow up? We have Coralpecan on today to answer these questions of lore, crafts, and dude bro psychology. That and so much more on today's episode of the Moth Studios Super Secret Podcast. Don't tell anybody about it. Welcome back to the show, Secret Keepers. I'm your host, colonial American sex educator Joel Watts, joined as always by
Danny, the world's worst fact checker.
And today we are joined by Emmy, who you may know as Coralpecan on TikTok. How are you doing today, Emmy?
I am doing great. I am so excited to be here.
Excellent.
We're super excited to have
you.
Yeah.
Awesome.
The super secret podcast is super excited to have Emmy on.
Hell yeah.
In today's episode, we are going to be getting into exploring game lore for TikTok videos, as well as a check-in on Elder Dragon Highlander. But before we get into those topics, as always, we got the question of the week. Emmy, Danny, are you ready for the question of the week?
I am ready for the question of the week.
As ready as I can be.
Yeah, exactly. So, Danny, I believe you suggested this one, so I do want to give you a shout out because it's one that we haven't done before, and it seems super like the back pocket one that we should always ask people if they have a magic background. So, if you were a magic card, which one would you be and why? Danny, you suggested the question. Do you want to take the first answer?
Sure, why not? I feel like in my heart of hearts, like I really wish I could say Thragtusk or something like that, because I feel like Thragtusk is good value creature, and like everyone's happy to have a Thragtusk. No one feels like it's like overly frustrating for someone to cast one. I mean, I guess maybe in certain circumstances, but that's like mostly limited, right? But honestly, I mean, I'm Snapcaster Mage. I just I need to have access to my instants and sorceries, and I want to have a toolbox at my disposal. So, yeah, snappy for me.
Ah, the snappy boy.
Yep.
All right.
What about you, Emmy? What's your card of identity?
I would say my Magic the Gathering card would have to be Emrakul, the Aeon's Torn.
Oh, God. Wow.
Arguably the most powerful Magic card ever printed. Basically says for 12 mana, you win the game.
Yes.
That appeals to me. And Emrakul as a character is so powerful that they had to trap her in the moon to get rid of her. And same with Wizards of the Coast. They had to ban Emrakul in every format to get rid of her. So it is very hard to get rid of me once I'm in your life. And
once you follow
the
on
only
TikTok,
ways
she's
of
going to
getting
be
rid
there
of me,
constantly.
I will be there. I will just keep posting no matter what. So, yes, Emrakul, the Aeon.
I feel for the people of Innistrad because trapping Emrakul in your moon is going to you're just going to be in perpetual retrograde astrologically, I think, for the rest of eternity. It's the sacrifice you make. You're just never going to get your stuff together as a people of Innistrad. But I do agree. Like, I remember when Emrakul first came out, and it was just like that. Most decks were just now Emrakul decks. That was like the win condition. Any deck that is win condition was cheating out a big creature, well, just replace whatever big creature that is with Emrakul.
Yeah, I mean, or Gristlebrand. I mean, sometimes you want
Gristlebrand was intense. I remember Gristlebrand Summer. That was nuts.
Drawing 7 cards is a nice feeling, so,
Oh, yeah.
I think the most powerful phrase in Magic the Gathering is draw a card. So this is a very good thing to me.
So yeah, draw a card times 7. No.
Yeah.
I was actually like, yeah, Gristlebrand was a card I had my eyes on for a little bit because I really considered buying myself into Legacy in getting a what is it called, Reanimator deck, which I compared to
Oh,
when I was like conceptualizing it. It's like bringing a musket to a sword fight. It's like if you aim
yes.
your gun correctly and shoot truly, you win. But if you miss, you're going to be probably stabbed to death while reloading.
No, that's exactly how Legacy is. Sometimes there's decks where you just have to mulligan into your winning combo, and if you can't get it and you keep mulling down to like maybe four or something, sometimes you just turn one scoop because you know you can't get there before somebody
Yeah.
else does.
It's a fast format.
Well,
It is
it
a
is. I
fast format
mean,
and it is a
I
ruthless format.
yeah. What would be the noble format of Magic? In X
The
Seekers of Fortune, we have Ruthless and we have Noble. I guess
Noble.
Block
limited,
constructed.
block
Block
constructed. Yeah,
constructed. Yeah,
yeah. That's
I
pretty
would say
much
that's the noble
pretty fair.
format.
I always
And
thought block constructed
Commander.
didn't get it got short shift. All things considered. Yeah, Commander. I could see that. Well, Commander's like
Yeah.
goofy. Like that's the Jester format.
Commander is the Jester format, but I think if we're coming back to Ravnica, I see Selesnya as the nobles, and I see Rakdos as the ruthless.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Rakdos is definitely ruthless.
And I think everything else is somewhere on that spectrum.
100%. Yeah. Because like Azorius has some ruthless tendencies.
Oh yeah,
As I mean,
Orzhov.
and then
Boros.
Gruul has definitely got its ruthless. They're just
Rule's pretty
smashing around.
ruthless. Demir is so ruthless.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I don't think they think that they're the good guys.
Yeah,
You know?
could you argue that Demir's more ruthless than Rakdos? Because Rakdos is kind of like just there for the plot. It feels like they're just. Are
But
they?
I think the cult of Rakdos is there to make like the demise of others a spectacle, whereas Demir is trying to kind of like keep it at least hush hush.
Okay.
Whereas, Rakdos, they're there and they're on stage, just as we say on TikTok, unaliving people. And it's theater, So
love
I
it.
think of Rakdos as the most ruthless of all the guilds.
Okay, I'll buy it.
We kind of got a little bit off topic there, but that's all. That's all good and fine. I think I still have to answer the question
Yes, you
before we
do.
can move on.
Oh, yeah.
Now, Danny, I really respect you. Stabcaster Mage, one of the best cards in Magic, and I definitely see you as that because you always pull a trick up your sleeve, like something I wasn't expecting that I should have been. It's almost like I think Snapcaster Mage is the ultimate foreshadowing kind of card because whatever card you get hit with it was already in the graveyard, so you already experienced it once, or you try to get rid of it once. So I love Snapcaster Mage. That's a really good one. Now it's funny. I didn't think creatures, like you both chose a creature, and I went instantly to spells because I was thinking about what spell would I cast, and so the Edgelord inside of me was thinking, oh, disenchant, of course, because I will disenchant you of all your illusions to the mysteries of the world with hard science and a lack of imagination, just like any good Edgelord.
Yeah.
But I'm not really an Edgelord. The day-to-day Joel says
Hard disagree.
I don't know. You have matching braces with your shirt.
That's just a
Edgelord.
style lord. I'm just stylish.
I
But
think you can be a stylish and an edgelord.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go.
I mean, if you have a very specific style, I mean, but I do, granted, yes, I do tend to favor black, but it's not because of my, being a goth or anything like that. It's simply because I'm a messy, messy man, and anything lower grade, anything lighter than black, I'm probably going to mess up within a few times of wearing.
It's literally the reason the Mega Moth color scheme is black. Is because
Yeah, black
both
and white,
you and
yes.
I will not want to wear non-black.
I
Yeah.
feel the same way though. If I'm buying a shirt or something or buying stickers, I prefer that black and white palette.
It's so nice.
It's clean and it pretty much goes with everything else. So you can interchange it pretty easily. Now, like I said, day-to-day Joel, non-edgelord Joel, I was thinking Sylvan Library because I am willing to sacrifice some of my time or life to find more options during any serious consideration. So it kind of came to me really quickly, and I thought, well, if it's the first card I thought of, my subconscious must know something I don't.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a good choice for you, I think. I agree. I feel like oftentimes when we're deliberating things, you just have to see an option or two before you can feel good about a choice.
Yeah, I'm like the ultimate. If you just show me one option and you think that's going to be like, oh, aren't you impressed with this? It's like, well, I'd be more impressed with it if I could contrast it with another option.
Yeah.
So,
The hack is to bring Joel two terrible options with one option you want him to buy. And
yeah, exactly.
I think some of our vendors have picked up on that.
I think so. I mean, it's like what they say. Like I always heard that in filmmaking. It's like when you're in a department head who's presenting things to the director, you show them what you really want to go with, what you think is the right decision, and then two decisions that are like lackluster. And that way, the director feels like they made a decision, even though most like 90% of the time they're going to choose the one that you wanted them to choose. It's a psychological hack.
I feel very hacked right now.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
That's good. I'm gonna start implementing that in my life.
I like
yeah,
it.
Corporate
I
psychology,
highly recommend
man.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ever dreamed of embarking on legendary quest, unlocking hidden secrets, and discovering untold riches? Dive into the world of X Seekers of Fortune. It's the game that's soon to be taking the internet by storm. Sign up today at xseekersoffortune.com and start your journey to greatness. Remember, fortune favors the bold. See you there. So, Emmy, we should probably dig into today's topic, which is all things that interest you.
Oh,
So,
okay. Wow.
Yeah, I know. It's like we
What a world we
created
live
the
in.
show around you.
Wow.
That's why. Why do you think
Imagine
people
that.
love being guests on the show? So, I mean, I always love to get the conversation started. You know, we want to get to know you, the audience. They might not have seen you on TikTok before, so I like to get started with the idea of the origin story. So, I think the first and foremost when it comes to gamer origin stories is: did you grow up in a gaming household?
No, and it's a good story.
Oh,
So,
good.
growing up, I grew up in the sort of family that, you wake up every morning and you do a couple of hours of mathematics before you go to school, and then you would just continue to, I was in a big like academic achievement household, and we just push for all things math. I have
Presbyterian?
never had no, just kind of I don't know, tiger parenting, I guess.
Tiger parenting. Okay.
Tiger parenting, yep. I have never owned a game console in my entire life. And at this point, I feel like it's just too inaccessible. And so I got into gaming like the old school analog tabletop way. So I picked up Magic the Gathering and the Pokemon TCG when I was a kid. I started playing Magic competitively when I was a teenager. Like, I played Standard all the way from, like, Lorwyn block very seriously. Probably the first time I took a break was in, like, Khans block, like Khans of Tarkir block. And then during the pandemic, my lockdown hobby turned into Warhammer painting, just because like the week before the lockdown, I went to a intro paint class at my local game store because a friend of mine was like, "Hey, you should come learn how to paint minis." And then we all had to like shut down for weeks, and I was like, "You know what? I have some paintbrushes and I have these little green goblin guys. I might as well just keep doing this." And then at some point I was like, you know what? Just taking pictures of little plastic men and putting them on my Instagram just isn't hitting right anymore. And I feel like I need to start doing video content in order to really capture like what these look like from all angles. And my TikTok just started off as me like taking my fingers and just rotating the minis around so you could see a 360 of what I painted. And then I was like, you know what? After I had spent some time like watching TikTok videos, I was like, oh, I could like have a personality and throw some jokes in there, because I had been doing at that point stand-up comedy for about 5 years or so.
Oh,
And
wow.
was
I
like,
did not
you
know that
what?
about you.
Yes, that is my other thing that I do. And at that point, right, lockdown, the bar and the club scene, there's just no more venues for stand-up. So I was like, I'm going to start taking my little bits and making them real specific about nerdy shit. And that's how the whole thing started.
Wow.
Wow,
Well,
I feel like
that
we have running the risk here of getting derailed into asking a bunch of questions about stand-up because I think both Joel and I are extremely interested in stand-up.
Okay.
So.
yeah. I
Well,
guess my one question is, have you considered having a set ready for like if you were to do like I guess the convention circuit, if you will, like go to the conventions and be like a stand-up for the crowd, like warm them up before like a keynote or something like that?
oh my God, that would be my dream come true if that was a thing. Because I remember doing a lot of like really specific sets about. I love playing old school RuneScape. It's like an MMO. And I did a whole set at a comedy club that one guy was laughing his ass off the entire time because he got my like max level wizard jokes. And everyone else in the audience was like,
What is
what
going
is
on?
this? What is happening? So if I did get to do like very specific stand-up bits about Warhammer 40K, Magic, gaming, etc. at like a con before, if I got to open for Mark Rosewater, I would just simply die.
That would be
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Butter up the
Yeah.
audience. I mean, I think those speakers would really enjoy that, like having that in front of them. Well, maybe they might be a little intimidated if you really went over the crowd, but it's there's warming up the crowd is very important, and I think
I
getting
think it
everybody
is.
aligned.
I think it's absolutely the most, and then that's the thing, right? Is people are like, you know what? I want to hear jokes and I want you to make my favorite games funny. And that's like a full circle thing for them. When I do those lore videos, I'm like, there's 10 million other lore creators out there, but I'm like, how do I make it funny and how do I make it accessible and entertaining, but also educational? And I'm working on it, but I think I have a formula.
I think you
Okay.
do. It's working pretty well.
you.
I
Thank
enjoy
you.
watching your videos, regardless of what you're talking about. They're always done. There's a lot of care put into them, and they're always entertaining. So
Yeah.
I'm definitely
Well,
there for
since
it.
since we're on this topic, we might as well say, on TikTok, where would they find you so they can see these videos for themselves if they're watching at home?
At coral, like the animal, and pecan, like the nut.
I have
Coral
to ask you,
pecan.
where did you get Coralpecan from, or pecan, or?
Oh my God, I'm so glad you asked.
Yes.
Okay. So Coral Pecan was my Twitter handle back in the day. I have since deleted this Twitter. I had a parasocial relationship with a public library and nobody needs to see these tweets. But I came up with Coral Pecan because I saw all of these celebrities with their Ben and Jerry's flavor. And to me, to like early 20s age Emmy, having your own flavor of Ben and Jerry's ice cream was like the ultimate, like, I've made it indicator to me. And at the time, I was in college and my undergrad is in invertebrate paleontology. So I was studying corals. So I was like, why not have corals, but pecan? So it's like a play on caramel pecan ice cream. And so if I ever got a Ben and Jerry's flavor, it would be called Coral Pecan. And that, my branding and who I am has changed so much since that time. But Coral Pecan is a cute little fun handle, and it's always been my socials.
It's like now something that I really want to see that come to fruition. Like I don't know about Ben and Jerry's, but someone has to make the coral
The Coral Pecan
cream.
ice cream.
How would you do
Yes.
it? What would be the stand-in for coral? Because I'm pretty sure
bluebell.
it would be illegal to eat coral, right? Or can
I
you
think
eat
a
coral?
salted caramel ribbon, because it was always supposed to be a play on the caramel pecan ice cream flavor. So like ribbons of sea salt caramel with candied pecans in it, probably with like a French vanilla base is how I would do it. And someday I'll have a pop-up and it'll be gelato in a little cart somewhere at a con,
You can-
and that'll be
yeah.
my meet and greet.
That would be so awesome, and you could totally make small batch this idea pretty
Yes.
well. I mean, that's. But I really do hope that you succeed in shooting the moon and getting your ice cream mass produced through one of the companies. That would be so awesome. We all have to have our shoot the moons. Mine is testifying in front of Congress. Yours is
Okay.
getting your own ice cream flavor.
Yes,
Mine is
we are
being-
not the same.
interviewed about why Joel's in a solitary confinement somewhere. I feel like that would be.
Oh my God.
Nah, I'll get one of those minimum security prisons. I'm sure if at all. I'm going to get the best lawyers. Trust me.
I feel
All
like
right.
you would end up at a black site for some reason. I don't know.
Well, hey man.
Why are we getting
in
arrested?
that case, I become a legend. I moved from being successful to being a full blown legend. We've covered a lot of the topics that I was just in those first two questions. We've covered a lot of the questions I was going to ask. So let me just go back here and double back on. Well, what I wanted to ask was what was your first favorite game, if you had one
My
before Magic and
first-
Warhammer?
Yes, it would be the Pokemon TCG. Like, I was a 90s kid. And of course, the hottest game in the 90s was Pokemon. I never got to have things like a Game Boy or a console. So I didn't have the fun little pocket monsters, but I did have the cards. And I feel like a lot of kids just collected them because they wanted a shiny Charizard. But I learned the game.
Yeah, guilty.
I played the game, and even up until like the last 5 years or so, when I was like, you know what, I need to hardcore get back into Magic because I am the oldest person at these Pokemon events by like 2 decades. It doesn't feel good to beat 5th graders.
Are you sure about that? Because I mean, they need,
yeah, I was
they need
about-
to understand that the game is much more complicated and there's a lot more decisions to be made. No.
Yeah, exactly,
Normalize adult Pokemon leagues. That's what I say.
I think we should. Though, separate the adults from the children because honestly, my Nidoking GX deck was very tuned, very meta, kicks ass. But it did not feel good, kicking the ass of 5th graders. It felt wrong.
I'm
But
sure very
I-
much like Magic
yeah.
the Gathering, when you're playing Pokemon at that level against somebody with that little experience, they just perceive what you're doing and all they can think is like, is this person cheating? Like what?
Yes,
I remember when
exactly.
I learned to play Magic, like really play Magic for the first time. I had been playing for a while, and then we sat down and played with our friends Pat and Ian, and they understood the stack much better than anyone I had ever played with up to that point. And when they would explain to me their lines of play, I'd be like, I don't even understand. Like, I don't know what's happening anymore. I feel like you guys are cheating. And so like, it took a while playing with them to get up to that level where I understood the stack well enough to actually be able to be like, okay, this is well within the rules. But yeah, like if you play with someone and you don't understand the stack and they do, you're going to feel like they're just cheating. Like,
Oh, absolutely.
there's so much nuance. Yeah.
And
I'm
I
sure in the-
play Pokemon through that lens of like, I play Magic, and at this speed, this is when I'm going to do this card draw, and and I really kind of spend a lot of time thoughtfully constructing my deck. And then you come up against, Timmy, who's like, I think Mewtwo is cool. And it's not good. And I felt at that point like, okay, it's time to grow up. It's time to start playing Magic like an adult. You gotta girl boss your way through this, and you gotta stop kicking 1st graders' asses. So, yeah.
You can only pick
But
low
it's a
hanging fruit
good
for
gateway.
so long.
It's a really good gateway into Magic. If kids like Pokemon, and then you need a little bit more of an adult challenge, I recommend the Magic the Gathering game.
So in Magic the Gathering, like Danny just said, when it looks like you're cheating to a newcomer, it's because you're utilizing the stack and priority in ways that they don't perceive as being, like they just haven't even thought that far ahead. They're like at a lower level of thinking about the game. What does it look like when when you're playing within the rules, but it looks like you're cheating to an outsider? What does that look like in Pokemon? Is that just like drawing through your like half your deck in a single turn, or what?
I think the most powerful, I guess at the time that I was playing Pokemon, I would say the most powerful Pokemon were the ones that not only could attack your other opponent's active Pokemon, because it's supposed to be kind of like, just like the gym matches in the games, like it's a 1v1, and then you go through your team of 6 Pokemon slowly until you knock out your whole opponent's team. But there are Pokemon that can attack your opponent's benched Pokemon, And if you can do some kind of like mass damage effects on their benched stuff, that can feel really cheaty to a Pokemon player who's just picked their favorite because they're pink. You know, it
Okay.
can make it's bad salty feelings.
Yeah,
And to get back to that point about what feels like cheating in Magic the Gathering, to me, that would be anything that affects the randomness of the game. Is I feel like what feels like cheating to somebody who's not super initiated. So if you're tutoring for cards, if you have the ability to search your library, and if you have the ability to draw more cards beyond your draw step, to me that's the stuff that feels a little bit illegal. And like when I got back into it, I was like, I can't hang. But then I figured out like, oh, Demonic Tutor's a really good card. I should probably run that. Yeah.
Yeah,
I feel
especially
like this
an
is-
EDH.
I feel like this question is maybe a little out of place, but I can't get it out of my brain. Can you
Okay.
just elaborate a little bit on what you mean by parasocial relationship with a library? Like, what exactly happened there?
Okay, so back in the day when Twitter was a wild and lawless place,
Yeah.
in university, our university had a Twitter account for the campus library. And this is so embarrassing. So the library would tweet and it would be like, today we're offering hot chocolate downstairs on floor 1. Or I think about Karl Marx a lot. You know, normal things a campus library would tweet about. But then I would tweet back, and me and whoever was running the library account would just very publicly flirt with each other. But this was also me having a relationship with a building. And
Yes.
it's just so embarrassing.
Is there a
So we
word
were-
for that? There's a word for almost everything. There must be a word for that. Should we
What,
Google it?
having a parasocial relationship with a campus building?
Well, with a building, I think, like, you know, just the idea of
building.
like, yeah. I mean, if people can be,
I think I've
okay.
seen an episode of TLC's My Strange Addiction about it.
yeah,
Woman having a relationship with a Ferris wheel, I think. I think that was the subject of it in
I remember
the
that
episode.
one. That
It's so good.
so good. And she was very complimentary of that Ferris wheel.
Oh yeah. They were engaged. Like it was very serious.
yeah.
For is it possible for us to what is the name of this building? Can we see a picture of it?
It is the Montana State University campus library. I do not remember at this moment the exact name of this building, but it is the campus library at Montana State University. Go
Awesome.
Bobcats.
Maybe we can plug a picture in.
I'm sure
Yeah.
Will can find us a nice picture of this building.
Yeah, we expect it will.
Yes.
That, I mean, hey, that's all in good fun. I guess that's like one of those good fun things, though, that it, like at a certain point when you get really deep into it, you like have that moment where your brain steps back. You're just like, what am I doing? What am I putting out there? I'm sure. So
Yes.
that actually does lead me to another question, because you said you were into Twitter in the Wild West days of Twitter, which I unfortunately I signed up for the app and then never used it. But I still think I have my handle. What is like, I guess, what is your social media journey? Because I assume, like, very much like Danny, I think Danny did a build up to finally like landing in TikTok and realizing that TikTok is where he wanted to be. I myself like feel like, you know, I want to get more into it and do my own independent videos here soon. So hold me to that, audience. But, you know, YouTube has always been like the thing that I thought was like the ideal social media. What led you, like, what was your progression from, I guess, Twitter to TikTok?
Okay. So Twitter, truly that was just the unedited and unfiltered thoughts of a 20-year-old edgelord. But at one point, I guess I got really into YouTube. I got sucked into the world of watching makeup tutorials all day, every day.
Oh
And
yeah.
for a while, I was like, you know what? I love makeup. And I think I'd be a really good, like, beauty influencer. And so
Mm-hmm.
I would post some videos on YouTube. But I think what really didn't click was the fact that I did not have like much in the way of equipment, and I didn't really have the ability to edit those videos or make the high quality images
Mm-hmm.
and the high quality video that these beauty YouTubers did. And so, these were just crappy videos that were shot on like an iPhone 8. And so there wasn't much traction there because this was, of course, at the time that, and production quality is just insane on YouTube.
Yeah.
In order to
Oh
have
yeah.
traction, you have to have
Mm-hmm.
like beautifully shot, edited, well lit, studio lighting, 4K, a dedicated editor. And I could not DIY this. So
Well, especially with
to
something so
me,
aesthetic, because there's YouTubers I know who got set up with a very similar setup to you, but the difference being is they were just talking. Like the talking was the important part. You could practically turn off the video and just listen to them. But with makeup tutorials, I'm
exactly.
sure that's a different. You need the ring light, you need the right lens on the right kind of camera body, all that jazz. So I get that.
Exactly. And I just did not ever have the money or the spare time to really
Mm-hmm.
throw myself into being a beauty YouTuber. But then I discovered TikTok, where everything just looks like it's being shot on a phone in somebody's living room, because it is.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how it started for me, is I just shot things on my phone in my living room, and I still do that. But now there's like ring lights and much more advanced knowledge of how the editing in the app works and all the effects and things. So I just feel like, to start on TikTok, you have to have a good idea and you have to be compelling. And I feel like the production quality can come later.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas on YouTube, for example, I think the production quality has to come first.
Mm-hmm.
But at TikTok, I feel like it's easier, it's more accessible to get in. You just have to have an idea. And what's that album? Parliamentary Parliament Funkadelics. It's called Free Your Mind and Your Ass Will Follow. It's the same thing. You just have to have a concept, and the production
Uh,
quality will follow.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah,
yeah,
principle of
yeah.
TikTok.
that tracks for me. I feel
Yeah.
like, and I think this is an important lesson to anyone out there who's aspiring to make content, which is if you want to make content, particularly on TikTok, don't worry about making great content. Just start making content and
Mm-hmm.
start communicating out there, because you're never going to make great content if you're not willing to make bad content. And you have
Yeah.
to be willing to just start. And it may take you a little while to get where you want to go, but making content of any kind and just putting in the reps and
Yes.
iterating is how you get to where you think you want to go.
Yes, absolutely. I would completely agree with that. The first time I went viral, it was completely on accident. I chose a song in a video that happened to be trending on TikTok. And then I think people thought the paint job was pretty cool too. But at that point, I was like, oh my God, I have 500 people following me on an internet application. I'm going
Yeah.
to do this again. And then I realized, like, okay, I have to post something daily in order to kind of be active for the algorithm to pick this up. That means that they can't all be winners, you know? And so I was just like, even if it's like a 5-second update about something I'm working on, as long as it kind of like goes along with the core principle of we make nerdy little art projects, I can post whatever the hell I want. And, there are people who are going to like and support and follow no matter what it is. And they're
Mm-hmm.
going to like you. And when it hits the For You page, that's awesome. That's great. But you just have to keep putting things out because you don't know who's going to vibe with it.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say, as far as your your follower acquisition? Has it been just like steadily over time, or is it like there's been a few big bursts based on like videos that have performed really well? What has that been like for you building your audience?
I would say that it's been kind of like it's been a gradual and steady over time when you're as niche as I am. There aren't too many things that hit the mainstream. However, the year that I created those Pride flag miniatures for Pride Month, and then I started using the Pride hashtags, they blew up. And every single time I post those Pride flag miniatures, they absolutely blow up. People love them. And Kyle, the Kyle character, people love him. And every time I do it, it's, I definitely couldn't churn out an episode every day, but I try to get like 1 to 2 of those up a month, and people love it. They just eat it up. So those are the bursts that I get. And then the rest of the time, it's just like, hey, here's a silly little thing. And this resonates with an extremely weird, niche, specific corner of the internet, but they love it. So, yeah.
One thing I've heard, which I'd love your take on, is you don't want to, if you're in a niche, you don't want to go like mainstream viral, because if you do, you'll get a bunch of people maybe following you who don't actually care about your content generally, and then that'll teach the algorithm that your followers don't actually like. Is that true from your
100%
research? Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
there's times that I think, like, okay, I could just make a joke about something that happened today at Target, but then, these types of observations that's so out of the norm for my content, and people would follow, and then they would go, oh, this girl posts about, like, Magic the Gathering mechanics and weird
Gross.
lore
Ick.
factoids from, a tabletop game. Like, they'd just be like, what the hell is this? So I don't do it. Someday I'll start like a secret spam account where I just post whatever the hell I want. But I think I'm doing well in my niche, and I don't really have that desire to really have a mainstream following.
100%. Any plans for Kyle merch?
Kyle merch.
Oh, I could
Yes.
see. I could see the characterization. Like, you should get an illustrator to draw the Kyle character.
I think Drew might at some point draw the Kyle character, but
Yeah.
in the videos, Kyle has his own he's sort of this little entrepreneur, and I'm putting that in huge quotation marks. He makes these
We all know him.
he makes these very bad, lackluster sort of like deck boxes, sleeves, and gaming supplies that he calls Kyle's Customs.
With a K? Customs
With a K. Yes.
Yeah.
And
NSFW,
so
I'm sure.
they're not NSFW, they're just really bad.
Oh,
So
okay.
he'll just take a piece of paper and like tape it over where it says Dragon Shield on some card sleeves and write like Homerids or something. Or like one time there was that IHOP collab that Magic the Gathering did, and Kyle just drew some pancakes on some sleeves. Like, you guys missed the merch. You missed the IHOP collab. Don't worry. Kyle's got the pancake sleeves.
Oh my God.
They should have released a lot of like breakfast oriented like Ulta. There should have been a secret layer to go with that. If there was, I missed it. Obviously, I don't keep up with the secret layers, but a secret layer where
Right.
it's just like Jace eating, drinking coffee, and I don't know, Gideon having a huge stack of pancakes. I guess that might be more Garuk, but just like all the planeswalkers just enjoying their favorite, IHOP thing. And you know what?
Absolutely.
That's the kind
Chandra
of
and Nissa on a breakfast date. Be so cute.
ooh.
Gideon's still dead, isn't he?
Garrick's still dead.
No, Gideon. Gideon's dead.
Gideon is dead.
Yeah.
And so is Garrick.
Garrick died? When did Garrick? He died
In
during...
Eldraine, in Throne of Eldraine.
Oh
Like
my
in
goodness.
2019.
Okay.
He's dead. But Liliana can bring people back. So I feel like that might happen.
Is she still on Arcavios?
I
No,
think
she went to
she's still-
Dominaria, right? When did
No, I think she's
all
still in-
twisted?
I think she's still in Arcavios. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I wasn't sure how that worked, because I know didn't they reprinted Liliana Liliana the Veil in
Yeah, in Dominaria.
United. Yeah, so I wasn't sure if she had gone there to fight the Phyrexians or not, but
No, she's kind of been hanging out. Like, I feel like she's part of the next main story arc. There's just
Okay.
a few characters we suspiciously haven't heard from in a little bit. So
They have
I'm
a track
wondering
record. Yeah.
when Liliana's coming back to the main Magic story.
They have a real great track record of killing my favorite planeswalkers.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Who is your
that's-
favorite planeswalker?
It was Dak, and then
Okay.
and
He's
also
dead.
Venser.
Venser's very dead.
Yeah, I did like Elspeth more than when she got resurrected.
Yes.
And but I would say right now my favorite is Teferi.
Okay.
Just because he's an abusive blue planeswalker and
Is an abusive blue
cards.
planeswalker.
I think he's a noble. Like if there was a character in Magic the Gathering that I would put as the noble on the noble side of X Seekers of Fortune, it would definitely be Teferi.
Yeah, I mean Tef is amazing.
Yeah. I would say, like, first and foremost, Big Daddy Planeswalker Urza would be
Oh,
like,
yeah.
you know, I was a big proponent of get rid of all these. You could have taken all 5 of the Lorwyn 5, gotten rid of them, and just put Urza as the first Planeswalker card. But you know, of course, they were standing by that whole like Urza's too powerful to be a card. But well, guess what, guys? She ended up making Urza
Guess
anyways.
what? We got
and, like,
Urza.
yeah.
In spades. There's lots
And
of
yes.
Urzas now.
When it rains,
Urza
it
High
pours.
Lord Artificer, what a card, and what a
Yeah.
deck.
That is an
Yeah.
amazing card.
Have
I
you guys
remember-
seen the alt art one of him, like, with his weights, like Urza and his gains?
Oh,
So
no,
funny.
I'll have to look at that.
yeah. I love that.
It's great.
And then
Is-
but my other favorite though is Chandra. I think I had a crush on Chandra, and like, you know, that kind of fiery lady is the ones that usually draw me in and chew me up and spit me out. So I'm both used to it, and I like the cycle of abuse.
I can
You
attest
like
to
the
that.
cycle of abuse. There's a
This
lot
is
of
an
questions I have now.
Yeah.
It's an ongoing theme on the podcast is trying to encourage Joel to navigate his way towards healthier relationships.
Yeah.
What about? I mean, do you know much about Commodore Guff?
I do not know much about Commodore Guff. The card is super cool. I love the Super Friends sub themes, but yeah, lore wise, I don't know a ton about him. What I do know is he's pretty cool though.
I don't know it either. I was hoping maybe you could enlighten us with some lore. So maybe in the future we can have another discussion about that because I don't
Okay.
know. Yeah, I'm
Next
curious about
time
that.
I will get more into Commodore Guff lore and we will discuss the final
Okay.
points.
Well, that's
I'm a big
that's
Ashiok fan.
Oh, I love Ashiok. Yeah.
Ashiok's the best. I think mostly because we know so little about them. We don't know a thing about Ashiok besides Ashiok likes nightmares. And
Oh yes, Ashiok. I
the
remember
mystery
that.
of it, I think, is what draws me to the character.
That's my favorite kind of like black character in Magic the Gathering is like that like nightmarish horror. You know, it's almost like that. You imagine that character casting terror. You know, the old school art version of it. You know, with the impish corpse up in the corner.
Oh,
would-
yeah.
Be remiss if I didn't mention Oko in the sentence. I also like
Oh,
Oko a lot.
we have to talk about Oko.
Is this,
Oko
sorry,
is-
I mean we have an Oko in X Seekers of Fortune. This is a Magic the Gathering Oko.
Yes.
Yeah, Oko was the really busted Throne of Eldraine Planeswalker that maybe was the most broken Planeswalker they've ever printed. I don't know.
The one with the deer.
Throne of Eldraine
counters.
Oko with the elk.
Yeah.
Yes.
Nuts. That's insane.
I mean, it was like a card that like you would resolve in limited and people would just scoop on turn 3 kind of thing. Like it's just a card you're not going to... Joel, I don't know if you've ever played against it, but it's not a fun experience.
I haven't had the
Drew
pleasure
actually
or the pain.
built an Oathbreaker deck with Oko, and it was fun, it was silly, it was flavorful, but it was very mean too because Simic is too good.
Yeah, usually, you know, in Magic the Gathering, especially in like EDH, it's like you have that like, you know, do you have a flavorful deck? Do you have an efficient deck? Do you have a, I guess, powerful? I don't know what the last thing would be, but to hit all of those, like it's like it has a flavor and a theme and it's fun, but it also destroys and it could be a CDH deck.
There's the 4 types of Magic the Gathering players. Most people know about Jimmy players and Timmy players, but there's 2 more. There's Jimmy, who is the like spell slinger combo player. Timmy, who is always going to pick the biggest, stompiest creatures. You have the Vorthos player, who is always going to go for like the flavorful win. I think I'm somewhere in that profile. And then there is Spike, who plays to win, who is like the competitive player, who is always like top of the meta. This is the most tuned deck I can make.
I think there's a fifth one called Melvin. Have you heard of Melvin?
Melvin? No, who's
Yeah,
Melvin?
probably the least talked about, but apparently Melvin's the one who just cares about like the novelty of mechanics. And it's just
Oh.
like, yeah, like every now and then Mara will talk about him or her, but like it's very.
I feel like that's a subcategory of which one is it?
John?
Jimmy, right? Yeah, like
Jimmy,
you know,
yeah.
it feels like a subcategory of Jimmy, while Vorthros feels like a subcategory of Timmy. Am I?
You know what? I might be a Melvin player because I try to challenge myself every time there's a new set, like to come out with a new deck based on new mechanics in a new set. And like I chase that novelty. So I may be a Melvin player. Wow. Okay. I'm learning.
Yeah, it's
apparently-
almost like Vorthros for mechanics. It's it's like a very much the same coin, two sides of the same coin. But wait, Danny, did you have something? Because I did have a topic
No,
of
I didn't have.
conversation.
No, please. I
Oh,
just
cool.
dropped in the chat
Melvin and Vorthros.
from
Got it.
2007. Mara's article on it, in case it's interesting. to anyone.
2007. Wow.
Wow.
Man. Morrow's
Okay.
got some history. Like if that's the thing about like TikTok, like you were saying, like if you just start doing something and doing consistently, all of a sudden you're going to have like some classics in there, and by classics I mean, wow, I'm sorry. My downstairs neighbor are having a very big argument, and it's definitely invading my ear hole, so I'm getting a little
Oh my
distracted.
god.
I'm hearing
Yeah,
it
That
too.
I hear it too. That's
Y'all can hear
crazy.
it. That's horrible.
Oh yeah, I can hear it.
You might want to step out and let them know that our audience can hear their argument.
Yeah, I'm going to turn down the volume on my mic. Well, that's like might be silly. Yeah, my apartment complex is like I think it's cursed. I've been recently being hit with a lot of back-to-back issues, whether it be outside of my neighbors or inside with my roommates. So let's just say that I am looking to get out of here, or this place needs to be exorcised or something like that. But I wanted to go back to this idea because we really wanted you on the show, Emmy, to talk about lore, specifically lore gaming. And one of the things I
Yes.
find so fascinating with Magic the Gathering is there's like an old school element of it. I'm sure there's some place I could go to get info dumped all the lore as Wizards would want me to have it, but not many people do that. And so the people who do it, or the people who piece things together, are almost in competition for, or maybe not even competition, but it's just like it spreads a little bit, like not necessarily like wildfire, but it does spread out like a game of telephone with Magic lore, I find. So it's like there's like a lot of inconsistencies. You'll know things like maybe, and that's why Planeswalkers dying is like something that we can all agree upon, because that's like there's a definitive end for those characters. But a lot of the nuances, like Jace being the guild pack, or whatever, the living guild pack, and being like the I don't know, the leader or the president or whatever of Ravnica, is something that you just sort of hear. You might hear about it like years after it happens, and be like, oh, okay, I didn't know that. Especially if you like are in and out of Magic and miss a few sets. So I don't know. What is your experience like as somebody who's trying to keep up with lore? How do you go about that? How do you like to get the lore out there? And how important is Magic lore to you?
Okay, so I think Magic the Gathering is one of those games where you play with the cards and then later you're like, huh, that's a fun little backstory about like why is this man holding this dinosaur and this Ikoria card. And I think you learn sort of like through the game, you're learning the lore. And like for example with Ravnica, right? You'd see very clearly that there's 10 guilds in a city full of guilds because you look at the pictures on the card. Magic used to have novels, And they used to be much more kind of like you could buy them in the game store. Now you can go online to, like, if you just type in Magic Story on Wizards website, you can read little installations every day as they're coming out with the lore. Like right now, the Murders at Karlov Manor, which is the set that's coming out in February, you're able to look at those stories. But I do think that Magic is one of those games that at this point is now kind of like de-emphasizing the lore and kind of more focusing on just the general broad strokes, flavors, and kind of vague world building of it. However, with the cycle that started with Dominaria United and ended with March of the Machine Aftermath, there was a lot of really rich storytelling, and there was a lot of characters that ended up dying in the conflict in New Phyrexia. You know, now Elish Norn is dead. There's a bunch of planeswalkers that have been desparked and things like that. And that actually, like, I, for probably the last 10 years of Magic, just did not care about the lore. But as soon as I was like, oh my god, Elspeth is activating the Silex in the Blind Eternities, Ren's hooked herself up to the Realm Breaker. That culmination of so many storylines got me to care again. The other thing that Magic has done in the last 10 years is, instead of telling a story in 3 parts, like there used to be these 3-part blocks, right? Like Khans, right? There was Khans of Tarkir, there was the middle one, and then there was Dragons of Tarkir. So there was like a Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. In the last several years, they have gone from like three sets in one world to like 2 sets in one world, to then we had these one-offs, like we went to Kaldheim, we went to New Capenna, we went to Strixhaven, we went back to Kamigawa for some reason, and that kind of turned me off from the lore. But then when I realized this is all part of like this greater arc, like we need the Halo, we need the Realm Breaker, we need these elements from these stories to bring it all back together, that's when they got me to start caring about the lore again. But again, I think it's like game pieces first, lore second. But from what you've told me about X lore, like I'm really interested, and I'm like so invested in it now. And I think the world building is really cool, and that's how I like to get into the lore, is like I want to learn more about the world, and then I want to focus in on the individual characters.
That's interesting. Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense for game lore building, and I don't want to get too deep into X Secrets of Fortune, what we've done there, but I'm a little bit more character first, and then we're kind of building out the world around the characters. But I do agree, those, you kind of need both. The character interacting with the world is the friction that creates the story.
Because those characters are the sum of their experiences, and so the way the world is shapes the characters and shapes their relationships. So at least for me, because I'm one of those big picture first people, that's where I like to start with my lore. And I think there's a lot of other like Warhammer lore creators that follow certain characters and specific events, but for me, I'm like top down, like what is the world, what is the circumstances in the world, and why are the factions the way that they are. And I think that there are certain people who resonate with gaming lore in that way, and that's maybe why they find my videos to be entertaining.
Yeah,
Amazing.
That's why it appeals.
What is the biggest difference between Magic lore and 40K lore?
Whew. So Magic lore, right? Every single little plane of existence is, well, now they're all connected by these things called omen paths, but before it was like self-contained stories on each world.
Yeah.
Whereas with Warhammer 40K, everything takes place in the same galaxy at the same time. There's this warp that allows them to travel, through time and space. But everyone and every faction interacts with each other in the same plane, and anyone can travel to anywhere. And also, it is so grimdark. Like, that's the word that they always use to describe the 40K setting, is it's
Isn't
so dark and it's so grim, and it's like really violent and horrible and awful.
isn't that basically the official Warhammer 40K subreddit is r/grimdark?
Yes, that is the official Warhammer 40K lore subreddit, is the grimdark,
I
because
can see
there
how
is
it would be so attractive to edgelords.
it's super we'll get into it. I made a flow chart.
Oh yeah, yeah. We're getting
yeah.
there.
We're gonna get there, but yes, the the main sort of like subtitle for Warhammer 40K is, in the grim darkness of the 41st millennium there is only war. So it's not like you pick good guys or bad guys, it's what flavor and in what way do you want to be awful. So
I
yeah,
like
it's
that.
really fun.
Yeah,
Get a
I was just going to say, yeah, I mean, maybe just to lay some groundwork. You did a lot of compelling groundwork laying, but is there a quick summary of the overview of the lore of 40K and what most compels you about it? That you can just sort of like lay the groundwork so we can, go off of that.
Okay, so there is the warp, which is like this realm of chaos.
Okay.
And the way that I see the main kind of tenets of it is the warp allows incredible things, incredible psychic awakenings in certain characters, but it also can like horribly disfigure you. So it's like, what do you do with limitless power? And I would say that's the most like compelling part of the lore to me, is like, what do you do if there are no limits? Do you try to improve the future for all of, the furtherment of your species, or do you try to conquer and enslave people? And yeah, it's a really interesting look at like what morality is and what you would do if you were truly like a being without limits.
Interesting. I mean, that's usually like, especially when it comes to fantasy storytelling, that is often oh, sorry, is somebody talking on another line?
Yeah, sorry, my
Oh,
mom's talking in the background.
anyway, okay, well, just to rewind there, the idea of like, you usually want to have that ultimate power to anchor. I don't want to say an allegory, but to anchor sort of like the moral question of your fantasy series. And here's a good question. Like a lot of people will argue, Star Wars is more space fantasy than it is science fiction. I'm a huge believer in that. It's not a science fiction. Like
Oh,
the
I Drew
rules
and I
are.
were just talking about this yesterday. It's a space opera. It's not, there isn't really like science elements. It's all just storytelling in a space setting.
Yeah,
And
and
Warhammer 40K truly is science fiction.
oh, it is. Okay, that was going to be my question. There
Yep.
is hard
There's all
sci-fi in there.
sorts of hard sci-fi. There's this power armor that most of the humans have in order to like combat in space. They all have genetic enhancements. There's crazy technologies that they have access to in the forms of like arms dealing and stuff like that. So there is specific hard science in the Warhammer 40K universe.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, how much hand waving has to happen is a big question. Like, it's like if you get under the hood, does it all add up? Or if you get under the hood, is it just sort of like put together with duct tape? So Warhammer's a
They
little bit
use that
closer.
warp so
Yeah.
much. Like, oh, the powers of chaos are drawn from the warp, and that can be very nebulous. But for those characters, like as we call them, the space fascists, that they're the hard science is there, and the genomic implements are there. And it's also all the lore and the way that the other factions are described. It's through that unreliable narrator lens of our good guy Imperium space Nazis. So a lot of what the technology that the aliens have is very like, we don't know. These are filthy xeno scum. And so it is that unreliable, also third person narrator that makes it really interesting.
That is, I know there's I mean, I remember if it's been going on as long as it has, I remember people
Yeah.
in school reading 40K books that were like this thick. And if they have
Oh
continued to
yeah.
produce those, I mean, the idea of like how much story is out there for Warhammer 40K specifically, it could probably fill a library at this point if they've been going at a decent
Yes,
rate.
there is a literal, like, it's called the Black Library, and it's sort of like the library of all knowledge, and that's what they call their books, is like the Warhammer 40K Black Library, and it is vast. I
Wow.
certainly haven't read every one of them.
We're like a we're like some sort of like what is it, like council away from them like canonizing an official religion out of it almost.
Should should we talk
Absolutely.
about guess what neckbeard?
Oh yeah, that's
Absolutely.
kind of leads into that. That's a series that you do on your TikTok where
Mm-hmm.
you guess what neckbeard, the question being, there is no good faction or good guys in Warhammer. That's your argument.
Yes. In the 1980s, some people in Nottingham, England, made their silly little game company, and you can really tell if you get into the early parts of the 40K lore, like these are basement dwelling edgelords that wanted to have the edgiest, just the most edgiest lore possible. So the factions, there's just so much like body horror and just horrible things that happen to these characters. But the other tenet about it is it's this socio-political commentary. If you think about like Reaganomics, Thatcherism, and the way that kind of like organized religion is a fascist way of kind of conquering civilization, so that like that kind of missionary colonization efforts, the Thatcherism and the Reaganomics, it in the purest form, in the earliest forms of the Warhammer lore, it is a biting satire criticizing the Anglican Church, criticizing Margaret Thatcher. But in the
Which was cool at the
modern
time.
context, very cool at the time, incredibly
Yes.
cool at the time. But now, in the modern interpretation of it, now that we're in the age of like the Warhammer video games and the Warhammer lore, it's really it's less satirical and it's far more literal. And these neckbeards, these later fans, the modern fans of Warhammer, really do take that kind of like, let's purge the Xenos and the chaos and the heretics super literally. And so, and they don't really understand, and they lack a lot of like media literacy to understand that this is like a veiled criticism of fascist organized religion, of Reaganomics and Thatcherism. And so by doing this Guess What Neckbeard thing, I'm trying to kind of like, guys, let's have an ounce of media literacy. Let's examine this fiction that's talking about, purging the heretics and purging the galaxy of Xenos, and let's examine it under a little bit more of a critical lens, and let's not forget where this media came from, which was basement dwelling British edgelords in the 1980s making goofy aliens to prove a point about humanity.
Probably reading a lot of Alan Moore and hoping that to step in his footsteps, because like a lot of
Exactly.
his works at the time were also criticizing the exact same thing, especially Thatcherism, which we thought we had it bad here with Reagan, but Thatcherism was, if you were against
Yeah.
those kind of politics, it was acidic. At least Ronald Reagan
Yes.
had a like a little bit of sugar to go down with his bitter pills. Anyways, there was something that I got caught up on. Oh, yeah, it's very much like going back to Star Wars. It's like the people who joined, was it the I want to say the 405, no, the 501 at the 501st, the people who like get stormtrooper armor and will march in parades in formation. It's just like, guys, those were the space Nazis that you're walking in the footsteps of. It's like you identified most with them, which, hey, teach their own. But I mean, as long as you're, I guess, in on the joke, and that's like what media criticism, media literacy, which is very important and under taught at this day and age. As long as you're in on the joke and you're playing the heel, I think is the important part. It's like every good story needs to have bad guys, and I would love to step into the role of the bad guy, knowing that I'm doing it. I don't want to say ironically, but knowing I'm doing it, with intention, and to kind of be somebody's huckleberry, if you will. It's like every good guy needs the bad guy. But it's another thing if you're like, no, I really do want to eradicate all those aliens because they're scum, and long live the Imperial Order or whatever it is.
Exactly.
Yeah, you
Long
think
live
you're
the
playing
Emperor.
the good guys.
Yeah, and they are the good guys, but they're honestly, the more you read about them, you're like, oh, these are the most evil. Because there's, special divisions of them that are like these inquisitors and these kind of like psychic special ops forces that like come in and just take out a whole planet and, kind of do it. And like one of the big key tenets and things that you read about, especially as you read about the parts of the Warhammer 40K lore known as the heresy, is you realize that the Emperor of Mankind is like the Emperor, and he says specifically, like, do not follow me as a god. But then people are like, but what if we want to follow you as a god? Can we have you as a god as a treat? And he's like, guys, I'm super uncomfortable with that. And they're like, no, that's heresy. You are a god. And it just kind of goes from there. And you can really see like how it becomes this fanatical devotion to this person who kind of his own followers make him a god. And it becomes this like game of cosmic telephone. And that's just super interesting.
Yeah. You often find that you have the unintended followers of a movement perverting it and subverting the underlying messages and turning it into something that the people who are starting a movement never intended for it to become. And so that's an excellent commentary on the ways in which, seemingly innocuous things can be spun out into terrible, terrible things.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
A lot of people want to follow a path, and they want to assure themselves that that path is the only path to go down, and everybody who isn't going down that path is a heretic or something to that effect. So yeah, great commentary from these neckbeards in, what did you say, Nottingham?
Nottingham, England, yes.
Nottingham, England. So
Exactly. Like if you take the faction, the Black Templars, right? They came. It's that story of like brothers against brothers. I don't believe that this man is a god. I do. Well, if you don't, you're a heretic. And so it's these relationships of like mentors with the student that turns against them, or brothers turning against brothers, all over the deification of their emperor.
I mean, that's just the history of humanity in a lot of ways.
In a lot of ways it is.
A lot of good lore, like a lot of good lessons that could be taken from this lore.
So, on the Warhammer front, do we want to touch on anything else? Because I do want to get to she EDH before we run out of time.
Yeah, I know I do. I need to remember you actually have a heart out. I think the one question I have is, because there's Warhammer lore, there's Warhammer arts and crafts, and then there's actually playing Warhammer. Do you play Warhammer 40K? And, if so, do you play the full game, or have you played Kill Team, which I hear is a much easier, and I've actually played Kill Team once with my brother. It's a much easier way of getting into the game. Any thoughts on that?
Yes. I think I've played both. I don't have a regular play group right now, but I have played both. And in my experience, it's what type of player are you? Are you that big picture player who wants the world building, or do you want to get really invested in your specific named characters? And also, do you have 6 hours to spend on one game? So Kill Team is much more accessible, especially if you're the type of person who likes to create their own kind of like homebrew characters. If you want, Jeff the bloodthirsty, and Cletus the sword wielding, and you're invested in like specific characters, and you like to create lore around those specific characters. I love Kill Team for that. It's a little bit simpler, it's a lot quicker. But man, it is a huge and it is a vast hobby, and it is an expensive hobby too. And yeah, Warhammer 40K is not for the weak. It's like if you want to get into the huge tabletop army building part of it, it is like a full send. Like you've got to be all in. Kill Team is what I would recommend if you're not exposed to this and you're like, I don't know if this is the right choice for me. You see a lot of people get those little plastic guys out of the box and they realize like, I'm not good at this. I'm not very artistic. So start with Kill Team, because you can just get one box of 5 guys and get going and make that decision then before you spend $2,000 on molded plastic.
Yeah.
Spend like 60 and then
like
and then decide.
It's like a pre-constructed deck versus like a competitive legacy deck or something
Oh,
like that.
yeah, absolutely. And that's the other thing too, is with Magic, there's so much more, like it's so much more mechanically specific, but Warhammer, it's like, here's the lore of my guys, and because of these special powers that they have, this is why they do the mechanics that they do. So it's a little bit like lore first, army second. I think some competitive Warhammer players would disagree with me there, but it's a lot more like, what do you like the look of? And instead of like, what's your play style, I would say start with what aesthetically, like, do you want red guys with chainsaws, or do you want purple aliens with space blasters? And then kind of go from there.
Nice. Cool. Well, yeah, that's a great, I mean, I would highly recommend trying out Kill Team. I did it with my brother,
Yes.
and I think we got 2 or 3 games in like under an hour and a half. So it's definitely a way less investment of time and money. So Danny, yeah, you wanted to ask about like the Coralpecan, or Emmy's EDH background and her coming up, would you call it a social club?
She EDH? Yeah, I guess it's sort of an association of ladies that play Commander.
Who all is in the group currently?
Let's see. If you know Magic New Girl, Magic Highness, MTG Angel, and Queen Honey, as well as Cookie Mama, those are the 6 ladies that comprise She EDH. It
And
just
you-
kind of started as a group chat, and we have big plans.
I love it. I love it. How often do you guys play?
We try to get a dedicated stream of us at least once a month, but I'm sure as things ramp up, we're hoping to do it more frequently.
That's amazing. And
And we always have a theme and we always have a challenge. So it's not just bring a deck, it's we have parameters and we have creative deck building challenges.
Nice.
and how competitive is it?
We have those power level discussions, but I would say not super competitive. What we're trying to do is just try to encourage more women to play. And one of our streams, we try to do kind of more like intro streams. We try to keep things a little simple, but fully explain what we are doing and why at every step. I don't think if you're trying to get into Magic, you want to see the most advanced gameplay right off the bat. For example, one of our streams, we all picked one color in Magic and one mechanic, and then just built a simple deck around that, like mono green trample, mono white lifelink, mono black sacrifice, etc.
Awesome. What other themes have you guys experimented with?
Ooh, we did we did a Halloween one, so we did like demons, devils, tieflings for one, just kind of like Halloween theme decks. We did a Christmas theme one. I did an Isu the Abominable. He's an abominable snowman, so we did some snow theme decks. Next month, our challenge is we all are going to do one commander, and then we're going to build it several different ways. So we're all playing the same commander in the pod, but we're all constructing the deck differently.
That's very cool. I like that.
If you know
Have
who
you
Anna Fenza is, that Abzan commander, there's
the Absan one, not the mono white one.
not mono white, the Abzan one. So
Okay.
there's many ways to do it. I have ideas, but you can make it more stacks. You can make it more creature focused. You can make it more combo focused. You could totally do like a reanimator deck. There's so many ways to build Abzan and Offensa. So we're challenging ourselves to come up with 4 different variations on one commander.
That's a great idea. Makes it very easy to, start watching that stream because all you have to learn is the one commander, it's easy to refer back to her over and over again. That could be, sometimes I've watched, what is it called? Spellslingers or something like that. I forget, like the command zone. And like one of the hard parts with that show can be like, oh, I have to keep track of 4 different commanders to remember like what each of these decks are kind of built around. So that's a good way of
Right.
getting people started.
Exactly.
One thing we like to do on the show is promote other TikTok creators and things. Would you be willing to just kind of go through and tell us a little bit about each of the different members and why someone might want to follow MTG Angel, for instance, or Magical Highness?
Sure.
Just give like a quick plug for each person here.
Absolutely. Magic Highness is kind of a stoner mom lifestyle content creator turned Magic the Gathering creator. So she's got really interesting takes on it, and it's always interesting to watch somebody like that. She is the Highness, so she has the most foils and just kind of she's very fancy and just very entertaining watch.
Great
We've
sense
got
of humor. Yeah.
Queen Honey Games, who is a educator turned LGS employee. So it's just interesting to have her come on from that perspective, an LGS employee. Also, she is just on so many more platforms than I am, like YouTube and things like that. So just a lot of breadth of content there from her. MTG Angel is an angel expert. If you ever somebody who's just so specifically focused on mono white and angels and can play that better than anybody else. And Magic New Girl, super cool creator. She is like from small town rural Alabama and just learning to play Magic. So it's just a very interesting thing for me because, I've been playing since Time Spiral Block.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just really interesting to hear like what a new player in this day and age, in the year of our Lord 2023, is experiencing.
Yeah.
And Cookie Mama's super cool. She's just kind of started her Magic journey, but is fully getting into it. The commitment is there, the motivation to succeed. Plus, she bakes. So, if you want that alternative content and see what somebody else is doing, that kind of like B content, the cookie content is really compelling stuff. So all 5 of those ladies are awesome, and we're just a very supportive group of people who is there to play Magic, because sometimes the stereotype is like you play Magic for the boys, for the male attention. We are playing Magic to play Magic, and we're here to defy stereotypes. And at the end of the day, it's about the supportive group of girls that you got by your side. So check out those ladies.
100%. I follow most of them. I think I need to follow a couple of them still, but
Cool.
they're all great content creators and very, very entertaining content. And I think everyone out there who isn't following them should definitely give them a
Absolutely.
follow. It's fantastic. Go ahead, Joel.
Oh, no, I was just going to say that I think that it's wonderful to build those like coalitions, those building those bonds in order to spread messages. I think that's a really awesome that you've gone down that path. I do know that we're kind of coming up on our time limit and our hard outs, and Danny, and we want to get to your flow chart to find out which 40K faction Danny and I belong to. This will probably tell our audience a lot about us, but I was thinking the last question I really wanted to hit before we moved on to that something random was I've seen on your TikTok that you both do obviously 40K model painting or figure painting, and you do magic card alts, which it seems like you turn some basic swamp into a snow-covered swamp, which I thought was a really genius idea. So I was just curious, how much overlap is there with the arts and crafts that the tools that you would use between 40K and Magic the Gathering to make those customizations?
Honestly, it's a good amount of techniques. I found that it's really hard to work with white paint. It looks really streaky. So that same technique where you're layering a series of darker colors and then adding white in detail on top, the way that I work, especially with those Pride Flag minis that I created, working with like whites, pinks, and yellows, has made it so much easier for me to create good looking snow on my snowlands. So, and same brushes, those hobby brushes that I use, the Artify ones, I love them. So I can use them for both, and I think that's great.
Excellent. Yeah, that's the big one, is like the brushes and the paints are pretty much the same.
Yes, I use Army Painter paints for everything. Army Painter, if you're listening, thank you. We'll talk, I hope.
They should reach out for sure.
Yeah,
They should.
Army Painter.
They really need to.
Come on.
Army Painter, you're great. I love you guys' stuff. It's pretty much all I use. That is the Army Painter.
So before we move to the flow chart, can we talk to Kyle? Is that a thing?
Yeah, guys. Kyle's here. What's up?
Oh, Kyle, I hear that you're an entrepreneur of some sort.
Yeah, Kyle's Customs. It's like taking off. I have 2 dedicated customers. I create custom deck boxes, custom sleeves. I've started converting Target bags into dice bags. It's like creative upcycling, man. It's just better to save them from the landfill.
Are these like canvas bags, or are they like the plastic
They're
bags?
like plastic bags, but it's like several plastic bags together for the durability. Try to work on, the noise level with them. It's like pulling dice out of a bag of sun chips, but the look is there, the aesthetic is there, the desire to preserve the earth is there, because, I've done a lot of court-ordered community service, and most of it's involved picking up plastic bags.
Yeah.
Why Target bags?
Oh, that's what I find on the side of the road. I've had to go to court-ordered community service at least once a month for the last several weeks. My Tony Hawk Pro Skater LARPing is upsetting to the general public, and the last time I was arrested was doing an Ollie Melon off the roof of Walmart. Okay. So, yeah, picking up those bags is what really inspired me to create Kyle's Customs.
Kyle, do you know who Emmy is?
Yeah, she's that girl at my game store. She's like objectively a 6, but maybe a 9 in an LGS if you think about it.
I guess it is all relative, Kyle. Now, I'm just curious, Kyle, do you have any? Do you have your rent ready for your mother?
Oh gosh, no, actually, I don't believe that I cost her any money with my food, room, and board. And actually, I've been stealing her credit card lately because I don't think proxies should be allowed in even casual Magic play. Like, what are you doing? She's recently gotten a new credit card, which I have stolen so that I could have a playset of all of the beta duels.
This is it's like you're essentially doing the ethical version of robbing Peter to pay Paul. It's like, to have an ethical stance on proxies, you have to do the unethical thing of stealing from your mother. But I'm sure she owes you for something, right, Kyle?
Yes, I believe that no proxy should ever be allowed in casual play, almost as passionate as I am about the earth and upcycling Target bags into dice bags. Kyle's Customs. Check it out. Birch dropping soon.
Well, Kyle, I feel like we may have platformed you for a little too long.
No, everyone should deplatform Kyle. I think that's the end goal.
Yeah, if you got a Kyle in your life, reconsider your life choices. Try to see if you could.
If you are Kyle,
out.
if you don't know a Kyle, you are Kyle. And you have to start thinking closer about your values.
Yeah.
It reminds me of when I was playing Magic more frequently at an LGS. There was a guy whose name was literally Chad, and it was like you could put him under the dictionary definition of a Chad.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
My
Slinging
my
his
least
own singles out of the back, basically. Go ahead.
I don't really remember this guy's name, but my least favorite person that I ever encountered at LGS, it's just like the type of person who just assumes that like they're the best player in the store no matter what, and they're like super impatient and complain about everything, like anything that happens, like they're complaining. Like if you take like 2 seconds to think about something, they're like visibly annoyed and like pouting
the
their.
worst.
Oh my God. So aggressive.
Yeah.
So aggressive.
And that's what
thinking
Kyle
person's game.
is like an amalgamation of everybody's horror stories.
Yeah.
Who does Kyle
Add
run as a
impatience in
commander?
Who does Kyle run as a commander? Kyle believes that commander should be dedicated casual play, therefore he only plays mono green, and if you play interaction at one of his tables, he's just going to flip it. He's going to come after you.
Zero
He believes
interaction.
that, demonic tutor just stresses him out, activates his IBS a little too much. But counter spells, tutor spells, none of this is allowed. So it's all mono green all the time.
That reminds
mostly
me of
Goreclaw.
there was like a it's like you see this sort of thing on our Magic the Gathering or whatever every now and then, somebody who like puts up a sign that's like, I want to start my own league and here's the rules, and it's like it's an EDH league but no CDH, none of this, no tutors, no counter spells. And it's just like that kind of person who's like, no, I think I know the best way of playing Magic. It should be played in the way that gives me the best chance of winning. Just like the kid who's like, on the playground, like, I have infinity shields. You can't hit me because I have infinity shields.
Exactly. Yeah, the rules of Magic the Gathering are unfortunately not whatever you want it to be. One of my most successful videos with Kyle is the one where Kyle is like heavily trying to enforce his own custom band list, which people just really it's the one pinned on my profile, I believe.
Okay.
Maybe.
Oh,
I
I'll
don't
check
know.
it out.
But
Yeah,
it is
I
my most
remember there
successful
being-
Kyle video ever.
Yeah, I remember there being a Kyle video pinned. I forgot what it was about.
Oh,
But
that's the one
anyways.
where Kyle tries CEDH and then starts gatekeeping everybody else. That's a good one too. It's great.
Yeah.
It's all in the playlist.
Oh yeah, Kyle's definitely our standing guard at gates.
Yes.
Well, we do want to go. Do you have one more question, Danny? Because we should probably be getting to the end.
Yeah, my last question would just be, what do we need to do to keep Kyle away from X Seekers of Fortune?
Oh gosh. As long as you're an inclusive community that's accessible and is here to teach people how to play, Kyle will be staying away.
Oh, okay. Perfect.
Yeah, Kyle is basement dwelling edgelords only.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, every community, if you grow a community large enough, Kyles find their way in. But, it's just
they
making
will.
sure, just making sure that they don't overtake the community. And, they are constantly put in their place with a regiment of bullying and fact-checking.
Yes. Bullying and fact-checking will keep Kyle out of any gaming community.
You know what? We need some girl bosses in the X Seekers of Fortune gaming community in order to keep the Kyles at bay. So, girl bosses,
Absolutely.
feel free to, we're taking applications.
Yes.
All right.
If you are a girl boss, link in the bio. Let's go.
Let's do it.
Excellent. Breaking news, Fortune Seekers. X Seekers of Fortune now has its pre-launch page live on Kickstarter. Click the link in the description below so you can be one of the first people to support X Seekers of Fortune. Also, there's probably going to be some bonuses if you support within the first 24 hours, so be on the lookout for those announcements coming soon. Thank you so much, Fortune Seekers. Please support the game, support the show by liking this episode and subscribing to our podcast. And you know what? Support each other. Back to the show. Well, with that, let's go ahead and switch over to getting to the last leg of the show. Now, first and foremost, I want to remind everybody, please, if you've enjoyed this conversation, please subscribe to our channel here at Moth Studios. We would love to deliver our podcast hot and fresh for you. So subscribe and ring that bell. And if you're not a YouTube user, please feel free to subscribe wherever you get your podcast. We are on all the audio-only platforms as well. And with that, let's go ahead and go into something random. Emmy, you have a very special something random prepared for us. Why don't you go ahead and walk us through it?
All right. Danny.
Okay.
Do you choose lawful evil good guys, edgelords, or aliens?
Aliens.
Okay. Do you like heavy metal?
No.
No. Do you enjoy reading about politics and or organized religion?
Yes.
Okay. And you said aliens, right?
Yes.
Okay. For you, you get the Tau Empire. They are the blue people alien space communists.
Okay.
They arguably Commander Farsight may be the one good guy. Big asterisk in all of Warhammer 40k, but the Tau Empire, they are blue, they have cool mech suits, kind of like Gundams, and they are communists. They're all for the greater good of their people, and that is who I recommend you learn about as your 40k faction.
All right.
Wow. That's actually, I mean, just the fact that you said they're blue sounds like it's right up Danny's alley.
Yes.
Yeah, they're like the Avatar people, but with mech suits, and they're communists.
I'm in for it. I'm checking them out right now.
Okay.
Excellent. Well, let me see if I can.
right.
I'll get ready to search up mine. I'm just questioning who do I answer this one as, which version of Joel, but I'm going to go ahead and lock
Is
in.
it Edgelord, Joel?
Probably will be.
Okay. All right. Edgelord Joel is choosing edgelords. All right. Same question. Do you like heavy metal?
Do I like heavy metal? Edgelord Joel.
Do you like heavy metal?
Edgelord Joel
Edgelord Joel
likes
loves
some subgenres of heavy metal, so I think overall I'll say yes.
Do you like power metal?
No.
Or are you more of a deathcore metalcore guy?
I'd probably. That's actually a good question. I need to remind. Can you remind me of the difference?
Do you like the pig squeals in your metal?
No, I do not.
Okay. How do you feel about symphonic metal?
Love it.
Love symphonic metal.
Yes.
Okay. As an edgelord who loves symphonic metal, your government aside 40k faction is going to be the Night Lords and Conrad Kurz.
Is that night as in the knights in shining armor?
Nighttime.
The Night Lords.
The Night Lords. Yes.
Okay.
With Conrad Kurz. He is like the Batman of 40k.
Oh, yeah.
He's super edgy. He loves the nighttime. And his guys are just the edgiest of edgelords. So if you're a big symphonic metal guy, they are the bad guys of chaos, and just the edgiest edgelords of all time.
They look
so
awesome.
much edge you can cut yourself.
Oh yeah, on that armor.
What is a
You see that
Primarch?
armor? What is a Primarch? They are like the in Star Wars terms, because I know we have a hard stop. They are the Boba Fett.
Ah, okay.
Or is it Jango Fett?
mercenaries?
Jango
All
Fett.
the storm Jango Fett. Thank you. They are the Jango Fett. So they're like the commander of their legion, but they are also the genetic material that which everyone in their little army is an exact clone of as well.
Ah, okay. Interesting.
And there's supposed to be 20 of them. 2 of them are missing. I think mostly as a device so you can create your own homebrew lore. My chapter of Space Marines are based off of this missing Primarch. And so there's 9 good ones. Again, in huge quotation
Listen
marks.
up,
And then there's
neckbeard.
9
Yes.
And then there's 9 edgelord ones.
But
The
my kind of
chaos
people.
ones.
and are these all human based edgelord? Not edgelords, Primarchs.
I guess they're human in some ways, but they've had so much genetic enhancements. Some of them are what are called perpetuals, so they are immortal. These are heavily roided up. They're like Captain America after he gets, or Bucky after he gets Buckyized. These are super duper humans.
Who do you play as?
The Necrons. The
Necrons.
undead alien robot skeletons with some vaguely ancient Egypt themes.
Nice.
We should probably ask what is your magic color, but I'm assuming it's black right now.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I've always been like a mono. I play a lot of Dimir as well. Like blue-black is where I like to be.
Okay.
But I discovered the colors green and white over the last year. And I've been having a great time with my Selesnya token deck.
Yeah.
Doesn't feel edgy to say that, but I really like it.
Yeah.
A good
Those
token
are
deck
my
is always fun. I enjoy going wide. It's a good time.
Yeah, I love it. Like that, there's that new guy that triples your tokens. There's parallel lives. There's doubling season. Like all of that in there. Just make all the tokens, make them big, and just keep swinging. I love it.
Yes,
I like
the
the sound
armies.
of that.
The armies of good will triumph over Dimir. But
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. It makes me feel soft to say that I'm like, oh yeah, green-white tokens.
No, well, I guess I'm soft. Like at the end of the day, that I'm not the edgelord I claim to be, because green white is like right up my alley.
That was a podcast, guys.
Yeah, excellent. I think we could definitely go again. Like there is like we scratched the surface on so many topics.
Oh, we
here.
scratched the surface. Absolutely.
Yeah.
We will.
So just to remind our audience, now that they've gotten to the end of the episode and they got to know you a lot better, and now they're thinking, oh, I really should follow this Emmy character. Where can they find you? Where do you want to be found?
I am, at this moment, on TikTok. I'm also on Instagram and Threads by Meta, which is an Instagram property. I don't know. Still figuring that one out. And
Yeah.
I am also on YouTube. And I am also on the X Seekers of Fortune Discord, which you can join. And we play X every Tuesday night.
Yes.
Ka-chow.
What time is that?
8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern,
Yes.
7 p.m. Mountain, 6
Come
p.m.
hang out with
Pacific. Yeah.
I can't wait. We can't wait till we have like a Sea to Shining Sea X Seekers of Fortune night, where we start at like people from the West Coast start or the East Coast start, and then people from the West Coast end it. So we'll see about that.
Manifest Destiny.
It's coming.
Yeah, the X
Yeah.
Seekers of Fortune Manifest Destiny plan. I love that idea.
I love that. Yeah.
And all you girl bosses out there, we need you. Please come.
We need you, please.
Yeah.
We promise I'm
Help us keep the
totally
Kyles
normal
away.
and really great. Yes.
Excellent. Well, with that, I think we're going to. Danny, is there anything else that you had that you wanted to get in before we go?
I just wanted to contest that you are not a genuine edgelord. You mentioned a couple minutes ago that you're not a genuine edgelord, and I just want to contest
You
that
are an
statement. 100%. Put that on the record there. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I gotta find the new frontier of edgelordism, because the version of it that I've associated with the 2010s just doesn't sit well with me. But maybe I can find maybe I could go like Tradcath and become an edgelord of like traditional Catholicism or something like that. That could be
Oh
up
my
my
gosh,
alley.
if you're a Tradcath edgelord, check out the Sisters of Battle. Or the Black Templars.
The Black Templars and the Sisters of Battle.
Those are like the ultimate Tradcath edgelord
Okay.
factions.
Well, I'll
There we
look into
go.
that so I can become the edgelord that I'm destined to be. And with that, this has been Emmy, or Coralpecan, A.K.A., and this has been Danny, A.K.A. my co-host, and I've been Joel, reminding you that you must start somewhere, so why not here? Thanks for listening.
What is the odds that we could get Kyle to replace Joel as the host of this show?
Take him. Okay. Requires a lot of beard mascara.
I'm surprised you haven't just gotten a fake beard to put on.
God, if I do, I'll look like that scene in Monty Python when all the women go to the stoning,
Oh, yeah.
in Life of Brian. Oh, yes, we're here for the stoning.
We know
It looks ridiculous.
more about neck mascara than you might think, or beard mascara. We've had to do a few beard mascara situations in our day.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
Joel has an alter ego or two.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it'd be really fun to show the crew, show everybody some of the videos or some of the short films we made. Anyways, wait, I have to say this last thing before we go. Theme music by James Holden, produced and edited by William Wymore.
James Hilden wants me to say to the audience, go to the theaters and watch Godzilla -1. He has been inundating us all on Facebook with this message, so I'm going to go ahead and give it here.